Hey guys, welcome back to Ultima Games, and we're going to take a look back into some older games today. Let's get to it. The first game on our list is going to be Battlefield 4. Now, Battlefield 4 is special for a lot of reasons. This game has the most phenomenal multiplayer in an FPS shooter that I've played in years. I even go back to it from time to time and play the game even now, even though it's been out for so long. From the game's just multiplayer and the gameplay itself and the way the game just handles, it just feels great. For example, like the multiplayer rounds in Conquest, that's the best game mode ever because you're on this large map, you're with these different objectives, trying to fight them off with your teammates, and you got jets flying around and helicopters swooping in down, trying to basically run you over the entire time. Snipers and towers are on top of mountains, just trying to pick you off from getting the objective. It's just a game that can give you the best stories when talking about it with other people. It's fun, it's phenomenal. It didn't have the best launch when the free game first came out, but DICE stuck with it, and after about 50 good patches or so, they finally got the game working and was bug free for the most part. There's still some stuff here and there you might find if you really look, but for the most part this game is phenomenal. It's fun, it's definitely worth going back to, and I actually want to go play some right now. The next game on our list is Gears of War. And now I talk about Gears of War, I'm talking about 1, 2, and 3, the old original trilogy. Don't get me wrong, 4 and 5 are great, but for the sake of this list, let's focus on the first 3. Now, 1 and 2 wowed me when it first came out. That game was great. It was scary. I didn't know what these hordes are, and it was just great. The story was interesting, the characters were great. Marcus Phoenix is always a great character, especially in a Gears game. I don't know why I made it sound like he was in any other game, but nonetheless, it's still a great game with a good story. But in my opinion, the multiplayer was probably the funnest thing ever in this game. When it came to multiplayer, it was always high action, high intensity, and great fun. This game's multiplayer for especially Gears of War 3 was just perfect. Everything was balanced. We had a few OP weapons here and there, but for the most part, they didn't ruin anything. And it was just always great to be just wary if someone was just sitting around in a corner, just sitting there with a shotgun and just waiting to blast your face off. Now, multiplayer is not the only game mode that you can play in this game, but horde mode is great. Survival-based wave modes are always fun in games like these, especially with so many options, of defending yourself. But multiplayer was definitely where it's at. The next game on our list is Watch Dogs 2. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that Watch Dogs has its flaws as a series in general, but Watch Dogs 2 really impressed me, especially as someone who played, Watch Dogs 1 with Aiden Pierce as a character. Even though I still loved him as a character and for what that game was, but Watch Dogs 2 improved upon every aspect of the series that you could have, and it did it in such a good way. Because at first, when the game launched, I didn't care too much for it. I wasn't really all that interested. I wanted more Aiden Pierce at the time, but I gave the game a shot anyway, and was decently surprised with how much I liked the game. I loved the characters, I loved the new dead set aspect that they went with, and the game was just generally fun. The missions weren't the hardest, I was gonna say, ever, but they were creative enough to keep my interest, so I kept playing through it, and I enjoyed playing through. I don't regret playing this game at all. As for the multiplayer stuff, it's fun, of course, some co-op missions here and there that were cool, and some invasion stuff. I didn't really care too much for invasion in general, but I get the idea, and I mess with it here and there. And the story's so good, the characters are fun, the story's interesting, and the place where the game takes place is also great, because they did San Francisco so well as a city. It's a little bit more emptier than, say, GTA 5, but for the most part, it's not a badly built world, and there's not too much Ubisoft clutter. Next game on our list is Persona 5 Royal, specifically, but I only say that because it's the newest one and it's kind of the same game with just newer elements tossed in, but whatever. The game is fantastic. I highly recommend this game to anyone who hasn't played it, and I know it's not the oldest game on this list considering it's coming out on Switch soon and all the other platforms, but Persona 5 was phenomenal in the series. Persona series always kills it with their games. They're always fun, they're always different, and they're always interesting, and that's what makes Persona thrive, in my opinion. And the soundtrack, don't even get me started. Persona 3 still, to this day, has the best soundtrack in a game that I've heard ever. Nothing has topped it at all. Now, the entire idea of the game is too much to explain in this video, but just watching the trailer and the gameplay that I'm showing here should definitely say more than enough than what this game is about. If you love JRPGs or anime in any way, shape, or form, I highly recommend you check it out. It's old. It's an older game, the original version, but Royal is the one you want. Go check it out. It's definitely worth it, and I highly recommend it. The next game on our list is Ni no Kuni 2. Now, Ni no Kuni 2 is about as whimsical as a game can get. It's made by Level 5, which is a great studio. There's also the Ghibli art style, which is pretty obvious if you've ever seen a Ghibli anime, and it just screams charm. Like, this game is just great. The gameplay is fantastic, the stories are good, the characters are interesting. It's a nice lengthy game too, which is very much appreciated for JRPGs. And the game has a lot to do. There's tons of combat to experience, tons of things to fight, and it's very fun. The game is just knows how to sink its hooks into you, and it's really good. And I think the best aspect of it is just playing through it and really watching it, because the game is just beautiful looking, especially for being on PS4 at the time. And one thing I'd probably say my favorite about this game has to be the mini-map. The way that they do the mini-map to combat is just so great, because everything just goes miniature, but it's like you can see the overview of the world, which is great, and it's just a great game all around. If you haven't played it, or you're thinking about trying it, or you just want a JRPG game or get your fix on, this is definitely the one you want to try. The next game on our list is Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, this game is great for a lot of different reasons. One, the amazing story, made by Hideo Kojima, and the gameplay. The gameplay is fantastic, man. There's so many options in this world that they put you in. This is one of the first games that I really paid attention to that could tell you that you could play any way you want and how you want, and it actually did that thing that it set out to do. And because a lot of games will say that, but then at certain times when you're playing it, it's just like, okay, this is cool, but I only get 2 paths. But with Metal Gear Solid 5, you get so many different options to infiltrate, be stealthy, or just go in guns blazing and just really tear things up in this game. And the story along with it too is just so good. The cutscenes are great, and it just fits with the whole game. Everything just feels right. Now, even with the game being incomplete technically, when it was still in development, it's still such a fantastic game with a great story, and I highly recommend you try this or go back to it and just really appreciate the game that was made at the time. The next game coming up is Bulletstorm, the full clip edition specifically. And Bulletstorm was an interesting game for a few different reasons. Now, Bulletstorm had lots of comedy, and it tried to be serious at the same time. Some people might say the story might kind of suck, and it kind of does, in my opinion. It's not the best told story ever. You're just a badass mercenary dude who's stranded on this crazy planet. But I won't spoil anything more than that, than the intro. But it's definitely got its charm. Like, the way you kill in this game and the way you fight are definitely the highlights of it, for sure. The amount of weapons and the combination in which you can use them, racking up points to get even bigger and better kills, and just being creative. The thing that made me like this game the most was just how creative it made me get with taking down enemies and actually utilizing every weapon that the game actually offered to you, rather than just picking with it or staying with a favorite. Now, don't get me wrong, when I talk about the story, it's not bad. It's just, it could have been better if it was just maybe got a sequel, or it was just fully fleshed out. But the game I don't think did well enough to do that. The next game on this list is going to be Diablo 3. Now, Diablo 3 is a fun top-down hack and slash RPG. It's made by Blizzard. They're legendary. It's a fun game without a doubt. There's plenty of things to do, tons of loot to collect, and the game is just a nice way to kill time and really sink your teeth in with a game like this. You can really put in a lot of time and really build your character, and the different classes are probably the best parts of this game for sure. With so many different play styles, it's definitely worth going back to and checking out, especially with Diablo 4 on the horizon, and I guess Diablo Immortal if you're into mobile games, which I'm kind of not, but I'm not against anyone who is. But with Diablo 4 coming, I definitely want to play through Diablo 3 a little bit more, get back in that world and really explore everything else it has to offer. I definitely haven't completed the game to 100%, but I wouldn't mind jumping into this game. Diablo is fun, it's action-packed, tons of things to do. I didn't think it'd be a game that I would personally like at first, but after playing about maybe 100 hours or so on it, it's definitely a good time, no matter what platform you're playing it on either. That's the best part about it. It's pretty much on everything, but the ideal place to play it, of course, is going to be PC. A few launch issues here and there, but I mean every game kind of does it to some degree. But for the most part, the game worked pretty good. The game was very well supported, and it was just a blast to play through. The story's interesting, the characters are great, your companion characters are fun to travel with, and they're very vocal, which is great for a game like this because you're doing a lot of walking around and a lot of sightseeing in this game. So you definitely want somebody who's keeping you up to date with like the story and what's going on in the world to some degree at least. And it's definitely fun. And it's definitely a much better game because of little details like that. The final game on our list is one of my favorites, and it is Ghost Runner. Now, Ghost Runner is a great game to go back and check out if you haven't really played it, or if it's been a while since you checked it out. It's a great game. It's fast-paced, it's fun, it's the combat is fluid, and man, that dying in one hit thing is it's a pain in the butt, but the system's fair in this game. I had a ton of fun with this game, going through every level, as stylishly as I can, and then dying a bunch of times. Like if I had to guess my death count, it had to have been in the 500s, which is insane for a game like this because you don't feel like you died that many times, but when you look at the stats after every level, you really did die that many times. Like dying in one hit in this game is no joke. But the frustration in all the games, little problems that it might have, it was worth playing through because that's how good this game was. I rarely felt like I didn't want to play this game at all. I just wanted to play more, if anything. And the DLC is great, of course, too. Definitely worth checking out. And if you've played it before, go back and boot it up again and see how well you do with it. And here's hoping to a sequel to this amazing game. I really hope they do a number 2 for this because that would just be the best thing ever. And that about wraps it up. Let me know down below in the comments what your favorite games are, or any games that you want to go back to and try playing again after so many years. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if there's any improvements we can make, and thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.